Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com and the Empathic Woman System, and the word of the day is leadership. And I've been thinking a lot about the different ways that leadership manifests and how some forms of leadership can be really, really effective, and other forms of leadership or lack thereof can sometimes be really a challenge. And I was thinking how, in many ways, from my perspective, it breaks down into kind of four basic categories. The first category, which I consider the most effective, is the category of chosen, elected leader who understands their job is of service and whose job is to watch and see the flow and facilitate and help keep things on track. They are not there to promote their own agenda, and they're not necessarily there to be the boss, as much as what they are there to do is to help make sure that things go according to plan and the way that the group has agreed they want it to go. Now, second kind of leadership is where you have somebody who's bossy, who's been elected, who's been put in a position of leadership, but is running things according to their desires and their will, and not necessarily looking for what the group needs or wants as much as they've got their own agenda and they're making that happen. And I think that that can, in some situations, that can be really effective. It's sort of like if you have a benign dictatorship, that can work. But it has to be a situation where what that leader wants and what the group that's involved wants is close enough that it's not going to be really problematic. Then the third kind of leader that I see is a leader that appoints themselves when they see the lack of leadership or they feel the need for leadership, but there has not been agreement or consensus on part of the group. And often happens in situations where you have a pack of dogs where there's no clear alpha. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where a puppy or a young dog starts acting really dominant because there isn't a clear leader, and how important it is, especially when you're training dogs, to be really firm and really clear and be like, no, I mean business. I am the boss and you are going to listen to me because I'm the one in charge and I am the grown-up here. But when puppies in particular don't feel that sense of firmness and clarity, puppies will often jump up and step into that role of alpha, or at least try to, and that can be disastrous. And I think the same thing can happen for human beings. When a human senses there is not an alpha who is in that role of leadership, but they're feeling that sense of the need for it, you'll have certain people who will try to step into that role. And a lot of times they can be very bossy, and they can also be incredibly controlling. And the problem with that, in my experience, is that usually they're doing it from their own agenda. They're doing it a lot of times from their own needs and their own fear, but they're also doing it in a way that was never agreed upon by anybody else. And so it generally tends to be a real setup for everybody involved because nobody elected them, nobody asked them to do it. They start feeling resentful because they're giving so much, and or nobody's listening to them or following them, and everybody else is resentful because they don't want to be told what to do and they never agreed to follow this person. So in my experience, this one is in some ways the worst of all forms of leadership because it's the biggest setup, because nobody's happy. At least with a megalomaniac or a benign dictatorship, at least the dictator is happy. But in the situation of somebody self-appointing with non-consent, that nobody generally is going to be happy. And then the fourth form of leadership, or maybe what I would say is sort of it's more anarchy or chaos or the lack thereof, is where there is no clear leader. And in my experience, when you have a group of people where everybody knows each other, where it's very familiar, where it's known quantities, and everybody is at an equal level of skill at reading social cues and recognizing how things are going, this can be very effective. It can actually be exquisite. It can be beautiful to watch an organic group move and work as a whole, sort of like watching murmurations of birds or bats or even bees flying in the air, that there can be this way that people and a group can follow that energy. But I will say that this particular kind of leadership or lack thereof, sort of internalized or sort of organically moving by the group, is effective when there is equality amongst everybody and everybody understands how to follow and pay attention. It falls apart when you have a situation where there are people unfamiliar with each other, or where different people are familiar with different levels of experience with something, so that some people know what's going on, some people understand the agenda and understand the rules and how it works, and then other people don't. So in order for this last form of leadership or lack thereof to work, there has to be group consensus, and there has to be everybody understanding the way it works. Because without that, what happens is it just devolves into chaos, and basically stuff just doesn't really end up getting done or accomplished, and it can just get kind of get out of control fairly easily. So I've been thinking a lot about this and about how incredibly important it is generally for us to be clear about the roles of leadership in any kind of a group situation, and that when we're working as a group or working in community, that it's so important to understand what our job is, what our role is, who the leader is, and how we are going to work with this, as well as for everybody to be on board and to have buy-in about this. So my question to you right now is, in all of this, where do you often find yourself around leadership? Are you somebody who tends to be a facilitator, a chosen, elected facilitator who does leadership from a place of service? Are you somebody who follows a leader like that? Are you somebody who prefers to be in sort of an organic kind of natural situation with a bunch of equals? Do you find yourself in situations where you or somebody else is stepping up into the role of leadership even though you have not necessarily, or they have not necessarily been elected? And are you generally, when you're working in community and group, are you defining the leadership roles, or is this something you're just kind of leaving to chance? So this is a really big one, hence the slightly longer word of the day than usual. But I think it's a really important one to be thinking about, particularly as you're participating in community. So I would love to hear what you have to say about all of this. So please leave a comment below. And until next word of the day, I'm wishing you peace, I am wishing you ease, and I am wishing you clarity and deliberate intent around leadership. So in the meantime, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jennifer Moore, Modern Medicine Lady, and also I will be ever so grateful for your help to get this video out into the world. So please like it, please share it, and please pass it along to the people who would find it useful. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow, I'm just sending you all kinds of love. Peace.